Hi, Smart News. We are going to have some fun today. We get to talk about a really interesting news story that is exciting to discuss because there's so many different angles. I'm talking about shortages, specifically car shortages. So there are a few headlines to consider with this story, and that is that we're seeing a couple things this week. Number one, we get auto sales this week, which is economic data that gives us a read on what we're shopping for when it comes to the car market. We always watch that. We want to see what the consumer is doing. You're really important. We want to see what cars you're buying. So we get those once a month and we get those this week. But one of the bigger stories we've been covering over the last several weeks is these sort of strange shortages that we continue to see in the economy because of the pandemic. And when I asked you on Smarter News, what are some of the shortages that you're seeing in your life, several of you mentioned what's going on in the auto market. And that caused me to want to dig a little deeper. Why is that happening? You think about the car market as this really kind of sophisticated market. It takes a lot to build a car, right? So how could there be shortages for some of the key parts to the cars? And is that even a reality? Is a shortage even happening? So I wanted to ask someone that had a wealth of knowledge about the car market. We needed an insider. We needed someone that knew the car market from the inside, but also can talk about it in a fun and exciting way. And that's why I reached out to Kelly at the Car Mom. And I want her to actually tell you a little bit about her story, because a lot of interesting things are coming out of this pandemic, right? We're all in this sort of period where we've gone through a really difficult time. We're not necessarily all through it, but there's been some innovation during this period. And I have a feeling that the Car Mom was one of those innovations. So let me go ahead and see if I can pull Kelly in right now. I wonder if she's
we should have done this from our car if I could have trusted the internet, which I don't know. I don't know if I could. There she is.
Hi,
Hi, Kelly. How are you?
I am so good. How are you doing?
That's going to be an offline question that I'm going to have to ask you, because my husband is like, we were able to set up Wi-Fi, like a hotspot in our car. And I haven't done it yet, and it's becoming a problem. And see, we could have done this live. If I had reliable internet, we could have been inside the driver's seat. That'll be our next one. We'll do
Yes,
that
a little tutorial.
from the parking lot. Yeah. So Kelly, tell me about this. How did the Car Mom come about?
It came about during the pandemic. So I was pregnant with my daughter. I had a toddler at home, and car businesses were essential. So we were open for business the whole time. And I was like, holy cow, I don't even want to take my time to the grocery store right now. How are these women supposed to go to a car dealership and like see if their stroller fits? I mean, so I just kind of looked at my industry, and I thought, well, what if I could just like help some moms out, like just get cars on and off their list by just doing some tours. I have nothing but cars on this lot that I work at. Let's just see if I can do a little tour. And it's blew up to a lot more than that. And now I love doing car tours. I'm a certified child passenger safety tech. So I install the car seats. I let you know what fits right, what doesn't fit, what doesn't work. And I also really love to give car buying tips. I'm a woman in the business, and I empathize with how scary it is for women to buy cars and how intimidating it is, because it's also intimidating to sell cars as a woman. So we have same problems on different sides of the aisle, and I built my platform to empower women to make the most informed decision for their family.
I mean, that's so amazing. And your family has been in the car business, right? That when I say insider.
Yeah, I'm the third generation to enter into the car business. My grandpa started a used car lot in 1957. My dad grew it to a multi-store franchise, and I started a blog. So you can imagine.
Did you always look? But in each generation, you're filling a different need. Did you always think to yourself, "I'm going to go into the car business"? Did you always think that's where you were going to end up?
I didn't want to, because I actually saw my then boyfriend, now husband, try cars and absolutely fail. Only lasted 3 months, hated it, wasn't good at it. But my dad really wanted me to try it. I tried it, and I was a lot better at it than my husband. So he quit after 3 months, and I was salesman of the month after 3 months. So yeah, it's in my blood. I was born to do it, and I love doing it.
And it all works out. Look at that. We all find our strengths, and that's just what happens. I could just tell you right now, in the first few minutes, I'd be like, I totally would buy a car from her.
Well,
100%. But I was thinking about this in preparation for our interview. I don't think I've ever walked into a dealership and then walked out and been like, I nailed that. Like, yeah, I did a really good job. Like, the dealership doesn't really, that environment never has made me feel like I really got this down. So there's a lot of questions that we have from folks about how to approach buying and selling. So I can't wait to ask you about that. But I also want to talk to you about this shortage in the auto industry. What do we need to know about it? Is it real? And why is it happening?
So first of all, it's crazy. So what happened was when the pandemic hit, a lot of industries all across the board kind of freaked out, and I don't think anticipated where this boom was going to come from. So way back when the pandemic first started, I think a lot of people, insiders of the car business, projected car sales to really fall. They didn't though. So there was record months in April of 2020, which like the pandemic started in March. April of 2020, we had one of the best months we've ever had. I think a lot of that was because, and then it continued to have really good months all into the summer of 2020. I think that happened because no one was traveling, no one was doing anything, and everyone went to go spend their vacation money on a new car or their stimulus money on a new car because it was something to do. So then all that to say, then everything started to open back up. In March of 2021, unfortunately, there was a huge fire at a chip plant in Japan, which really hurt shortages. On top of that, these same microchips that get put into all of these new cars are the same microchips that all the tech companies use. It takes because the new cars have more technology than they've ever had, it takes about 1,400 to 3,000 microchips for one new car. So it's not like one chip per car.
Oh my gosh. So that's like you're buying a computer.
You're buying a computer. Exactly. So so then we had this fire in Japan. So then there was less chips. And then all of these tech companies had more control of the market. So then they got first right of them. And then it made us have less new cars. We couldn't build as many new cars. So when we can't build as many new cars, dealerships are forced to supplement their inventory with used cars. They get used cars at auctions. So the auctions is like, ooh, auctions, but like it's not like a bunch of old beat down cars. There's a ton of great auctions. They're all online. And previously dealerships would go to auctions here or there, but the main people who buy their cars at auctions are some of these big dealerships like CarMax, Carvana, Vroom. They buy a lot of their cars at auction because dealerships get trade-ins more than Carvana does, or at least did in the past. Anyway, so then no one has any new cars. So then Carvana, dealerships, Enterprise, everybody is going to these auctions competing for the same cars. When everyone competes for the same cars, it makes prices grow up. So that's what has caused a shortage. Yes, there's a shortage. Yes, it is scary. And there's a lot less cars out there to buy right now.
So from what you're describing, it's not, are cars like mostly done, mostly built with their doors on, like waiting for the chips to get inserted somewhere? Or is it that the whole cars can't get built without having these pieces?
That's a good question. It kind of depends on the brand because every brand has different connections and they have different processes. So the brand that unfortunately has been the hardest hit is Ford. And Ford, I don't think anticipated not being able to get the chips because they have parking lots of half-built Fords all over the country, like parking lots of hundreds of cars that are just waiting for chips to be built or chips to come in. Other manufacturers have tried to get a little bit more creative with what they're doing. So some people are coming out with saying like BMW, for example, is claiming that their new cars aren't going to have Wi-Fi in them because the Wi-Fi requires more chips. Toyota is toying with the idea of only selling new cars with one key because that requires less chips. So like
one key.
Of course you could order an extra key, but like they're trying to like say
to get it off the lot, right? They're trying to say like here.
So it's bizarre.
Yeah. Okay. So that's because Dale had that question. He was said, are the shortages in new cars across all makes and models? Like if you're going to buy a car right now, is there a shortage everywhere, or are there places to look where there are fewer shortages?
There are fewer shortages in some makes and models. The American brands are by far hit the absolute worst. Some of the Korean brands like Hyundai and Kia, they have some issues. I think that's some of their issues. So, for example, Hyundai and Kia, they've got two of the hottest cars on the market right now, which is the Carnival, the Palisade, and the Telluride. They're very hard to get. Honestly, I think a lot of it's a little bit of hype. I think they kind of like not bringing them out as often because they're getting people to pay. So because all of these prices are so high, they're getting people to pay well over MSRP. So to a manufacturer, if they can make the same amount of money with selling less cars, that seems to be what they're doing. The brand that seems to be the least hit is Tesla. Apparently Tesla makes their own microchips. They're kind of vague about what they actually do. I can't really say that, but that's where they're going. So
that's interesting. Yeah, about Tesla. I was looking at this, a senior economist over at Cox Automotive, just so people can understand about when we're talking about shortages. I mean, it is something that I never thought about that could potentially happen. I never thought about the chips in a car. I never thought about that there might be fewer cars available. But this economist said concern about the supply situation really cannot be overstated, as we are in untested territory for the market. Do you have any indication just on your side, just from like a dealership perspective, as to when this looks like it's going to clear up? Or is this going to be a problem for the foreseeable future and we're kind of in this new environment?
Well, I think as far as like, so I think there's two problems going on right now. One, new and used car prices are very high. Two, there's no new and used car prices. So I think we have to ask ourselves, what is normal inflation and what is the supply and demand issue? The supply and the demand is going to get better. It is going to get better. They're saying, I mean, I think that some people are some people are more optimistic than others. I've heard some people say that it's going to get better around September. Some people say it won't go back to normal for at least 2 years. I don't really know. When I ask when's it going to get better, I'm looking for when is there going to be more cars to buy? When are you going to get to decide that you want white and tan leather and you can actually pick what that I see getting better probably in the beginning of 2022 if I had to guess. As far as the prices are concerned though, I don't see the prices. Will the prices go down a little bit? Sure. But like the prices aren't, I think just like in every industry, inflation is just happening in the car business, honestly. Like houses are more expensive. Fast food workers are getting paid $15 an hour now. Like things are just going up. Minimum wage is going up. Like, that's just happening. So these new cars are just getting more expensive. And in the same sense, like people are paying for it.
Right.
Why would any of these manufacturers lower their prices?
So once they can see that they can get those prices, there's not a lot of incentive to go the other direction. So the average price for a new vehicle in the United States is up $2,000 this year. It exceeds now $41,000. Remember, that's an average. So that's, we're talking about all sorts of models, which is a little tough to pull them all in together. Kelly, talk to us about though, what if you have to buy a new car, because we did get some questions about that. And let me see. Sarah said she needs to make a purchase. So it's not like she can wait. What's the best way to approach this if you have to make a purchase? And it does kind of crush me to know that I couldn't pick out the leather that I want. I know there's far more important things in life than picking out the color of the car, but if you're going to buy a car that you're going to have for say 10 years, you want what you want. So for someone like Sarah, what's the best advice that you can give her about going into that market and getting what she wants?
Well, here's the exciting thing. And here's where it's, in my opinion, the car market is a little bit of a wash right now, especially for someone who has a trade-in, because the cars are more expensive, but your trade is worth more. So your trade's worth the most it's ever going to be today, right? Technically, car prices are hopefully the lowest they're ever going to be today. Or maybe they'll go lower. I don't know. But all that to say is like, don't beat yourself up. People need cars. Don't beat yourself up about overpaying for a car. I don't think prices are going to drastically go down. And I think you are going to get so much more for your trade than you would have got this time last year, even with more mileage. So that's exciting. That is already exciting. Now, when it comes to being picky, you honestly can't be, or you have to be very patient. And it's not as simple. I mean, people ask me all the time, well, why can't I just order one? Why can't I just custom order one? And it's dealerships only get a certain amount of allocations every single month. Like if we could just order all the cars, we'd have them all on our lot. But BMW will go to the dealership and be like, hey, you can order 6 X5s this month. And like, who's going to be the 6 that we're going to order it for? So then dealerships can try to locate you cars. My biggest advice to like finding what you want is to choose a great dealership, choose a great salesperson, and start building a relationship with that salesperson and let them know that you're serious. Like the car business gets a bad rep. I understand that. I talk a lot about that on my page. And do I wish I lived in a world where does the salesperson want to sell you a car? Of course, but everyone wants to buy a car right now. So you can't rely on that salesperson to like give you a phone call when they get a white on tan one. We've got to stay on top of it. We got to let them know that we're serious and that they should sell it to us. It's borderline like real estate right now. Like you got to make an offer. You got to tell them why they should sell it to you. You got to be in front of that salesperson at all times. You got to use your trade as leverage. You've got to kind of, build yourself up and not just rely on the salesperson to call you when one shows up on their lot.
Very interesting. I relate to being part of an industry that has a bad rap. I think we can relate in that way, that we're trying to forge a new path here, both on Smarter News and on the Car Mob, which is why some of our values very much align, which I appreciate, Kelly. Let's see. Dana was asking, if you were trying to, if you could kind of pick from a menu of cars and you wanted to go out and buy like the best car that's out there right now, where would you direct someone like Dana?
Oh, Dana. Really, I would. The big thing that we do at the Car Mom is it really depends on your car seat situation or what your kids' situations are. I mean, if you don't have any children, then sky's the limit. Go buy whatever you want. What do you like the looks of? If it comes to a complicated car seat situation, like obviously then we have less options. I hate to be vague and not give her an answer. I really continue to be impressed with Hyundai and Kia's product. I mean, I think the market's speaking for itself. I think the Palisade's amazing. I think that even some of their sedans and SUVs like this, I just think the technology of the Korean cars is so much better than in the American cars.
Interesting. Well, maybe you just gave us a hint though to like think about what is our priority. So if your next few years your priority is your car seat, then that's what you got to search for. And if it's not, if you're actually moving out of that, we had a great question from a family of 4. She wanted to know if she really had to go in the direction, if you would really suggest a minivan or that you would suggest something different. She was worried about having too much car.
You know, I'm not a minivan mom, and sometimes I like to try to. So one of the things I like to do with the car is like if you want to be kept out of the minivan, you have options. So, like there's some great large SUVs out there. The Ford Expedition is by far my favorite large SUV. The Volkswagen Atlas is a great SUV. The Subaru Ascent's a great car too. I mean, there's a lot of great options that don't have sliding doors. But I will say the Kia Carnival, which is Kia's new, they call it an MPV, a multi-purpose vehicle. They're trying to get away from the term. It has launched, and it is darling. It looks kind of like an SUV. It looks kind of like a minivan. So I'd maybe check out that one.
Okay, that's interesting. That's a good tip. I haven't heard about that. Alyssa had a great question. Is it true you can't negotiate at dealerships anymore? When the salesman says to you, listen, I can't do anything else. Do you believe that salesman? Or what would be your next move?
So I will say, here's my advice on that. When it comes to negotiating a car deal, I say all the time that validation is the new negotiation. Like dealerships, there's so much software that dealerships spend to make sure their cars are priced appropriately. It does no one any favors to be on page 5 of cars.com. Why? They have to price them aggressively. Everyone researches the car online. Dealerships know if you walk in to look at my 2014 Equinox, it's not because it's $2,000 overpriced, or you wouldn't even show up to the door. So the cars are priced more competitively. The dealerships have the data that tells them how to price the car. These programs tell them how many people have viewed it, when they're projected to sell it, how many cars are in the area. So like they are priced appropriately. If you want to make a lower offer and feel confident in your offer, you have to be able to validate it, right? So you have to go, hey, I want this one. It looks like, I know it's priced competitively, but there was this one that was a little bit cheaper, even if it's in maybe the one that you're looking at is the color you prefer. Do you think you can meet me at this one? Because that's a really competitive car. Because if you just go in there and say, well, I want it for $1,000 less, they're going to be like, well, too bad, because here's why it's priced this way, and they're going to have all this stuff to show you. So is it over? No. Do we always ask because why not? Yeah. Like whatever. Like let's just see if they can do any better. But I want people to know that don't worry about the discount and worry about the deal. Being a good car buyer, getting a good deal on a car does not mean you sat there and you beat up a salesperson over $500 because it just doesn't. And like I get some people who tell me that's not correct who aren't in the car business. And like your uncle's bought 10 cars and like he's telling you how good of a negotiator. Like,
your Uncle Jerry. We talked about Uncle Jerry yesterday. We all know an Uncle Jerry in our life that's
Uncle Jerry, who thinks he knows how to buy a car because he's bought 10 and he's got a great deal. Well, I've sold thousands of cars, Uncle Jerry. And I'm telling you, and again, I have no skin in this game because I'm not the one selling you a car. So I'm just letting you know the cars are priced appropriately. The cars are priced to market. We can make a lower offer if we want. But in reality, the interesting thing about used cars versus new cars is used cars depreciate every single day they're on the lot, right? New cars don't, because if it's a 2021, it's not really going to depreciate until it's 2022. So new car prices are constantly being updated every single day. The dealerships want to move them. And if you don't buy it, someone else is. So like they're just,
yes.
You're just, okay, they'll be able to tell you, hey, 200 people looked at that car yesterday.
One of the things you said yesterday that really sat with me, we were chatting a little bit ahead of this, is that you said that if you do have a trade-in, you actually might have not necessarily leverage on getting a better price, but maybe more attractive to the dealer because they're looking for car, right? They're looking maybe to get another car in there. There's a question about that we had from one of our viewers. It was a great question. Let's say you have a car that you've driven for a couple of years. Is there like a certain mileage amount or a certain year amount that you should look at to say, okay, if I'm going to trade in this car, I should do it before this point, because once I get past this threshold, it's going to dramatically decrease. Is there like kind of a rule of thumb on that?
Sure. I mean, a little bit. And I never once, I'll give my opinion, but I also don't think, like, don't push yourself. If you're not ready to trade, you're not ready to trade. When a car's out of factory warranty, it takes a big depreciation hit, right? So like, but that's kind of that depending on the brand, that could be fairly new into you owning the car. So Chevy, for example, has a 3-year 36,000 mile warranty. So once a car is out of factory warranty, it drops in value a little bit. Every 10,000 miles, the car will take a little bit of a depreciation hit, because if you think about how used car websites are set up, you can see 40,000 miles or less, 60,000 miles or less. So every 10,000, you get kind of hit. So to me, like, if you were thinking about trading at 50 and you got to 52, then like, I don't really think your car is going to depreciate that much again until you get to 60. And then if you really want to get a lot of money for your trade, I really think getting out before 100 is really important, because cars that have over 100,000 miles can be harder to get financing on. So because 100,000 miles is obviously a more affordable vehicle. So it's someone who would be on more of a budget, and then it's harder to get financing on a car with that many miles on it. And then also sometimes aftermarket warranties can't apply to cars that have over 100,000 miles. So I would say my big ones are after factory warranty, you take a depreciation hit, and after 100,000 miles, you take a big depreciation hit.
That's actually really helpful. Liz had a question about leasing versus buying. And then Stephanie just had a question about paying in cash. And with it, you mentioned financing. So is that also something else to consider when you're buying a car that makes you a more attractive buyer to a dealership? Like, would a dealer want somebody that can just pay in cash, or do they want the trade-in when someone that's going to be financing? Or is a lease something?
Great question. Biggest misconception in the car business: you do not get a better deal if you pay cash. Not even because the dealership's getting cash for the car. So either First Community Bank is going to pay for the car, or you're going to pay for the car. But the dealership, you're not financing through the dealership, so they don't care. They would honestly prefer you to finance, because they will make money on the back end. They'll mark up the rate a couple of points. They'll get a kickback from the bank for sending your loan there. They're more likely to get you to buy like aftermarket add-ons, like an extended warranty. Like, you will not get a better deal if you pay cash. And in fact, I think you'll get a better deal if you finance. And I would use that as a negotiation strategy. I would tell them like, hey, would love to buy this car. I've got a great trade and I'm planning on financing. Okay, sure. I'll take $500 off the price of my car.
It's almost like a dating website. You're like, I'm going to put these characteristics down, walk into the dealership, see I'm a more attractive buyer, because there's such a, there's a limited supply. Gigi had a question on our feed. She said, why does it feel that women are not taken seriously when they walk into a dealership? Like, is that true, Kelly? Is there something about, like, do salespeople not want to negotiate with women? You did such a funny reel where, like, you were showing what people say to women buyers, like, you want to call your husband on that? Like, and this stuff really happens. It does. So what do you think about that?
I get really frustrated with it, because I am someone who knows upward of probably 100 different car salespeople. I've just come across them in my career. 90% of them are great people who I do think take women seriously, respect women's time. I think that there are some bad eggs. Like, there's bad eggs in any industry. But the car business has come so far. It's come so far. A lot of people probably haven't bought in a car since it's come as far as it has. But my advice to people always ask me, like, well, how do I get a man to take me seriously? And I'm just saying, we're just don't. I'm so done with it. I'm so done with a salesperson not taking you seriously, talking to your husband and not you. Why would I ever want to give that person my business? Well, I'm done. They can't be educated. It's 2021. So, like, we don't even mess with them. So instead, we choose our salesperson ahead of time. No one knows that you can do this. And it is the best way to get a good deal and improve your car buying experience. There's a website called dealerrater.com. It's a fabulous website. You can everyone reads reviews about the dealership, right? You're not stopping there. We're reading reviews about the individual salesperson. So then we can see who has 5-star reviews. Is there another woman working there? Who always gets their customers happy? And we're scheduling an appointment with that person, and that's who we're working with. If you just pull up to a car dealership and you have to deal with the guy who's outside smoking a cigarette, drinking an energy drink, that's on you. You know what the good salespeople are doing? I'm working by appointment. I don't have time. I can't just, sorry, I get very passionate, but like,
No, I have the image, what you just described. Like I can see him. He's
oh,
in khaki pants. He's
100%.
got a polo shirt on.
Like
He's
that.
smoking a cigarette. He's got the whole thing. I can see it.
I mean, I'm just, I just could not be more done with it. And the good salespeople just don't do that. I mean, we're busier. So don't get stuck with a lot rat. That's what we call them. Go on.
Lot rat, writing that down. Lot rat. I have a couple quotes that I've written down for you. That's what I'm going to write down. Lot rat. Hashtag.
Guarantee it solves 99% of your used car or your car shopping problems.
There you go. I love it. Actually, great idea from one of our viewers that they want a whole Car Mom approved salespeople ranking system. So if you could work on that in your free time.
Special announcement coming this month. So make sure you're following.
Ooh, I love that. Okay, we want to know more about that. Okay, let me see. There's a bunch of really great questions. Okay, this is really one that gets to the timing that we're at by Messington. She was asking, if you need to replace a car, is it better to wait 6 to 12 months right now, or do you just do it? Does the timing matter at this juncture where we are in the auto industry?
It's a really good question. And I don't know. I mean, I don't think anybody knows.
I appreciate that.
I don't look at someone and be like, oh, that was stupid to buy a car right now. I don't think it's like that. I think that I can't predict that the prices are going to come down. I don't think they're going to come down that much. So no, I don't think it's stupid to buy a car. I don't think you should wait. And there's, every day new things come out. Some people say the inventory is getting better, and then some people say it's getting even worse. My suggestion would be start looking for a car. If you find a car that you like, buy the car. I mean, you can wait. Like, if you're looking for a used Ford Expedition, 70,000 miles on it, that's fine. Wait till you find that. But then when you find it, you have to move.
Got it. I like that. Approval to move on it. One of the reasons why I wanted to talk at this particular period is not just because of the shortages, but we're right before July 4th weekend. We know that here we are, July 4th. We're going to go into Labor Day. Then we're going to go into Veterans Day. There's any number of these holidays that then produce sales. And then there's also the end of the year, right? Like that end of the year period where there's new models coming in, or you know this better. Maybe you can explain this better, obviously, than I can. Like, is there a sale on the horizon? Is that turnover period between 2021 and 2022 attractive, or are we just in this period where any of those kind of flashy holiday sales really aren't going to mean that much?
So holiday sales holiday sales are on new cars, right? Because like I told you, used cars depreciate every single day. So used car prices are always being marked down. New cars don't get marked down unless there's manufacturer's rebates. Manufacturer's rebates tend to happen more around the holidays. No, there are very few rebates available right now on any new cars. So no, there's not really like a huge sale coming. And honestly, in my opinion, I think all the sales are kind of clickbaity. Like, okay, like the programs are normally the programs for the entirety of the month. So like I wouldn't spend my holiday weekend at a car dealership because I think you can get the same programs throughout. Now sometimes they give a little bit more, but it's never thousands of, you're never going to get thousands of dollars better of a deal by going on a holiday weekend. My advice to be, I mean, you could go towards the end of the month because everyone has goals to hit. So go towards the end of the month. Be aware though, if you do go towards the end of the month, everyone goes towards the end of the month. So you better get there at 9 a.m. or expect to be there all day.
Well, it's interesting though. What you're saying is put in a little bit of work, even just like a little bit of work ahead of time, going by and meeting someone and just kind of developing a relationship. It sounds like that would go a long way. And then if you are at the rush at the end of the month, maybe you're recognized a little bit more. You have something established. Okay. Great question from Lila about the used car market. She was wondering if she should try to sell an extra used car that she has for more than the Blue Book price. Like, are used cars going for higher than what would be listed?
It depends. I mean, Kelley Blue Book does a pretty good job. Kelley Blue Book is accurate to the current market, in my opinion. So you can, now, will some dealership maybe pay over Kelley Blue Book if they really want it? Sure. You could also get prices from CarMax or Carvana because they pay stupid money for trades because they don't have to pay attention to just their market because they ship cars anywhere, whereas dealerships aren't quite up to speed with that. So you could try to get a price from them. But yeah, I would 100%, if you had a third car, I would 100% sell it.
Good to know. Final question about leasing, buying, leasing, selling. We talked a little bit about the buying, the trade-in, but we're getting a lot of questions about leasing. Is the leasing market even active right now, considering what's going on?
Leasing's and I love leasing. I love leasing for growing families. There's so many benefits to it. Basically, what it comes down to is um, new cars are so expensive. So to make new cars more affordable, dealerships have to do extended financing terms. And so then you're financing a car for 72, 84 months, and it's very hard to ever get out of the car. And you normally have a lot of inequity, meaning you owe more on the car than it's worth. Leasing kind of prevents that. Leasing allows you to get a new car at a lower payment and get out of it every 3 years. So the benefit to that is when you get a new car every 3 years, you get the latest and greatest in technology. You're never upside down. And, people always like to tell me, but then I'm not owning anything. I don't own anything. Well, at an 84-month loan on year 3, you also don't own anything. And in fact, you're probably $10,000 upside down. So, I mean, if you're really honest, and 90% of America has a car payment, and people all the time pay off a car and then go pay off their car and then they want to go get something new. So you're getting right back into another car payment. So if you're just really honest with yourself, you look at the mirror and you say, I'm going to be honest with myself. If you just accept the fact that you're going to have a car payment for the rest of your life, just like you have a mortgage payment, you should lease, because you get a brand new car every 3 years. You're always under warranty.
And that doesn't make you any less attractive to a dealership right now if you were saying I want to lease it versus buy it versus nothing.
Because then they know you're going to come back from service and they're going to have the option to do something else with you in 3 years. So yeah.
Oh. Okay, I got it. All right, let me look for any final questions that we have. But while I do, Kelly, I always like to ask someone at the end of our interviews, like, what is the one thing that can make us smarter about the auto industry, buying, selling, anything? Or do you see something that's often stated by the news or talked about that you think is inaccurate that you would like to clear up, to say like, this is a misconception? It's kind of like free range. How would you approach that?
I definitely think that, because I watch a lot of other people who teach car buying, and they use a lot of fear mongering, and they teach you to lie to the car dealership, and they tell you the car dealership's lying to them. And I just think if you choose a reputable dealer and a reputable salesperson, you don't need to be scared, and you're not going to have these problems. The car dealership, there are so many salespeople who genuinely care about their customers, dealerships who care about their customers, want to sell you this car, want to sell you the next 10 cars. And I think that people go into the dealership with their guard up, to be honest, because they've just been told that that's the way to go. And it's okay to tell the salesperson you want to buy a car. It's okay to tell them exactly what do you want to accomplish. Be educated, know what your trade's worth, know what the car's worth, but not everyone's out to get you at a car dealership. They're really not, because we spend so much time on our online reviews. And I think that I'm not saying I want the customers to be nicer, but it seems every time when I would sell cars, it's always an uphill battle. And I make the joke, no one take this offensive, but I make the joke that everyone's a Karen on a car lot. Everyone's always mad at me. No one likes the salesperson. And I'm just genuinely trying to have fun. I work on commission. Salespeople do not get paid that much as you think. It is not worth the price of a house. We do not get paid 6% of the selling price. We get paid 30%, 20 to 30% of the gross. So the average price they make on a car is $250, and they spend weeks to close a deal sometimes. So just be a little nicer to your salesperson. Bring them a Starbucks. It's a hard job.
Especially now. Well, bring anything if we're in the market for a car. No, that's actually really good advice. I think probably, I'm just speculating, obviously, but I think a lot of that probably comes from insecurity, because you feel like you're not getting a deal, or you just don't feel educated enough. It's someone throwing extended warranty at you and lease and this and that. It's something you don't do very often, and then you got to jump in and make this big commitment for something for your family. It feels very high stakes, right? So, well, this has been great, Kelly. Thank you. I can't wait for the big announcement. I also really appreciate learning the term lot rat. I think that's going to go down, like I said, hashtag. Maybe we'll do a lot rat t-shirt. You should do. I can see one with a big X through it for you. I'm imagining it. It could be a sticker.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much for everything. Have a great July 4th weekend. And let's do this again. I'd love to do this again with you.
Love your mission. Totally in line with the Car Mom mission. Anytime.
Okay. Thanks, Kelly. Thank you so much. All right, guys, I know we had a ton of questions that we got to as many as we could, but isn't she amazing? You just feel the point of Smarter News is one of the points is that I want to give you a little bit of the news every day. So when you walk into a room, you can put your shoulders back and be like, yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, I got that. Just so you have a little bit. And, that's why we do small bites. So over the course of a week or a couple months, like look at all that you've accumulated. Kelly just gave us a great amount of information that I think all makes us feel like put our shoulders back a little bit. Like this is good. Now we have a little bit of a game plan, at least if you're approaching the auto market right now. The issue about shortages, and especially these chip shortages, is a really big story, and it's continuing. It's something that lawmakers are looking at as well. I mean, it really begs the question about manufacturing them locally, which that's not what's happening right now. And so I'm curious to check that out a little bit more, because there's only so long a company can wait with these shortages before it really starts affecting their entire business. So I'm curious about that. And I'm curious what else you'd like to hear about. So questions and comments, always let us know. Direct message. You can email us, hello@smarternews.com. Look forward to having Kelly back. She said, validation is the new negotiation. That might be a quote of the day on a lot of things. Validation is the new negotiation. We got to educate ourselves a little bit, have some facts, present them, and see where it goes. All right. Thanks so much, you guys, for joining us on this live. And we'll have more on all of this. I'll upload this to YouTube. We'll put it on Instagram so that you can listen to it later. Have a great day.